I know there's a lot of controversy about around the use of AI in all spaces right now, and especially in any area of the arts. I see all the time when looking at submission guidelines, no works created using AI. My question is, what if I use AI not to write, but instead to do things like calculate how much of a planet would need to be made of metal to have a molten metal volcano, or predict what it would look like if the atmosphere on an Earth-like planet were hit by a solar storm so strong it flipped the magnetic poles in a snap? If I'm using it as a research tool or as a glorified calculator, is that acceptable? And on the flip side, when does it go too far? What if I were to create an entire ecosystem to showcase in a novel, but did so with AI?
There's a lot of angst and concern about AI right now. It is a hot topic. And the first thing I want to say with this question is you need to unpack, why are you asking this question? What consequence of using AI are you concerned about? Is your question, am I an ethical person for doing this? Or is your question, will I get caught and canceled? Knowing which question you're asking changes the shape of the answer you're seeking. You really need to form your own moral stance on the use of AI, what you think is an okay use and what you think is not, and you need to be consistent with that. Like any other question with a moral aspect, you have to be willing to defend your position. If you're asking, would I do this? You make your own choices, but would I do this? No, I would not. I'm concerned about ecological impacts. I am concerned about the way that AI has been trained using theft. And I'm aware that I am not knowledgeable enough about either of those things to make a really truly informed decision about a particular use of AI. And I am too tired and too busy to do all the research necessary to figure it all out. And so I'm just not touching it with a 10-foot pole. I'm just staying away from the whole thing. The other reason I'm staying away from the whole thing is because I want to develop my own skill in world building and my own skill in making things up and developing things instead of my skill in talking to AI. I want to enrich my brain with research. And yes, you can use a shortcut to, I'm not sure if I like the word shortcut, but I could use AI for some of these things, but also I can learn how to do the research, and then knowing how to do the research or knowing how to do the math or diving into the research hole will give me so many side benefits. If you talk to authors, you will discover that a lot of people who that dive into the research hole to figure something out has tangents off of it, which enrich your work that you miss if you just, use AI to bring one piece of synthesized information to you. So that's my thought. What about you, Erin?
I love I love that thought. I have two other I mean, I agree. Like
Yes.
I wouldn't do it. Like I'm not a fan of AI. I take a pretty hard line stance against it because I tend to think that it steals people's work and is bad for the environment at the same time, which are two things I don't like.
Yep.
But beyond that, I actually think that like AI is just not as good as it claims to be. And so in some ways you're like actually hindering, you started getting into this, like your
Yeah.
own work. And the way that I think about this is twofold. One is thinking about pictures. So granted, there are amazing photographers who can make everything like look great. But I don't know if you've ever like looked at like a great landscape and then you've taken a picture of the landscape and the eye is better, like the actual human eye is better than cameras. Like it has better depth perception most of the time. It sees things that like the camera like doesn't quite see in the same way. The majesty, the feeling. Also, cameras don't have the like, I am standing here at the foot of this canyon. Like there's this like I am small and the world is big that like a camera does never quite gets it. And I
Mhm.
think like AI is like that. So if you're trying to like, granted, sometimes you can't go to a place, you might look at a picture, but I think in some ways like doing the research is like going to the place, as opposed to getting a picture of the place that somebody else took
Yeah.
and maybe not realizing that out of the corner of your eye, you might have seen the very thing you needed, but you don't have the chance because you're not seeing the whole thing.
Right.
I also tend to think of it as like AI is awful, also like an over caffeinated intern that you don't have to pay immediately. We all have to pay, but like in the sense that really it's like sending somebody to just Google a bunch of stuff and like compile it the best they can really fast. And so, granted, that means you don't have to do it. But again, I feel like if you, when you're reading something, you might say, like, oh, this answers the question I had. Oh, and here's this other piece of information that doesn't seem like it answers a question I had, but's really interesting. And I could like use it for this other thing. And the AI will never do that. It'll literally just look for the exact answer to your question and pull the exact thing that somebody said and not tell you where that person was. So you can't look at their work and go, oh, wow, actually, this person was such an interesting expert. Maybe they know 10 other things I want to know. And so in some ways, it's just like not as like it's just not as I don't think you get the richness of the idea. And then anybody else who uses AI to answer that same thing gets the same answer to the question. And so in some ways, you like don't get the thing that makes the idea really yours in that like you leapt on it in a way that somebody else would. Whether you'll get in trouble, I think if you're in places that say no AI generated work, they tend to mean no, like do not use AI in any part of your like just don't use it from start to finish is the way that I interpret it. But you could always look at their guidelines. Maybe they are clearer about what they mean. But I think a lot of people are taking a harder line. If you really are feeling like I desperately want to use it, I would say the best way, maybe again, not a recommended, don't like AI, but like if you want to ask AI or Google, like, hey, what are 6 sources I should look at to learn more about this? But then you could just Google, X, and you probably find those same 6 sources and you wouldn't need AI at all. So
Yep. So that's our answer for today.
for today.